there's been a lot of naysayers, and I know our guys in the O-line room hear what everyone's saying as well. So that's a way that they're able to shut the haters up, basically. Having Tyreek and Waddle, having fast guys also help me get the ball out quicker to be able to distribute that and throw off timing for the rushers as well. So I think that's been a big key to that as well.
Who leads the love list this week, and Jay, he's got Denver this week where, listen, yeah, they have Patrick Surtain, who's a great player, but nothing seems to be stopping Mike McDaniel's offense.
No, and Matthew's man Sam Howell did whatever he wanted against the Denver defense, and now the Washington offense is good. It's been good, but this is, to your point earlier, Matthew, this is a different class, and Tua right now, joint MVP favorite with Patrick Mahomes. His passing yards prop on DraftKings is only 264.5. I think he goes over that and has a big game against the Broncos.
Yeah, I like that bet as well. Roll Tide, Tua Tagovailoa, of course.
Now an accurate
went from
Roll
Alabama.
Tide.
There you go, Roll Tide. Through 2 weeks, the Broncos are allowing passing touchdowns at the 5th highest rate. Through 2 games, Denver's allowing at the 4th highest passer rating. They rank 30th in pressure rate this season. Tua's going to have a clean pocket. And oh, by the way, this is a West Coast team traveling east for a 1 o'clock game in the hot Miami Heat in September against, I think, the hottest offense in the NFL.
Yep.
I have Tua at 6. I mean, yeah. You should, and he'd be higher if it wasn't for the fact that, at the moment, Waddle's in the concussion protocol, Tyreek Hill is dealing with an ankle.
Yep.
If you knew both were healthy and playing the full game, be even higher.
I think it's instructive and a great sign that Tyreek Hill was kind of shut down against the Patriots. Didn't matter. Tua was still in complete control. Didn't have the most amazing stats, but he was better than his stats were in that game.
Yeah.
And Teron Armstead making his way back soon, too.
Yep, which is big.
That's a big one. So our next passer here on the love list, Kirk Cousins going up against the Chargers defense. And for Barry, this week he comes in as QB7 for you.
Yeah. So Kirk Cousins was on the hate list last week, and that was a mistake. I've learned my lesson. So welcome. And you're welcome. For everyone that has Kirk Cousins, I sort of reverse jinxed it. I got him out, got him up and above. So, that's what it is. You're welcome, America. You're welcome. I motivated Kirk Cousins. Look, it's a great, it's a really positive game script between the Chargers and the Vikings, 2 very good offenses, 2 not so good defenses. 54.5, it's the over-under. It's the highest on the Week 3 slate as well. No team in the NFL has a higher passing rate, 79% for the Minnesota Vikings through the first 2 weeks of the season. 40 or more pass attempts and 340 passing yards both games so far this year. Chargers allowing over 10 yards per pass attempt. Cousins is my number 7 quarterback this week.
Yep.
I'm just going to be throwing early and often against this one.
Kirk Cousins, the current favorite on DraftKings to lead the league in passing yards, and you can see why.
I mean, the Chargers gave up 21 fantasy points in week 1 to Tua. Okay, fine. Tua is awesome. They also gave up 21 fantasy points to Ryan Tannehill last week. Yeah, give me Kirk Cousins this week.
The next one here, we get to see him on Thursday Night Football. Brock Purdy going up against Wink Martindale's New York Giants offense. And listen, guys, the Giants, Jay, they've been able to get no pressure on the quarterback this year, and they're going up against an offense that under Kyle Shanahan feels like all things are clicking.
It's not just that they don't get any pressure, it's that Wink Martindale blitzes a lot. That's what you're blitzing
That's
without pressure against Deebo Samuel and George Kittle and potentially Brandon Ayuk. This seems like a recipe for disaster.
Or McCaffrey out of the backfield, too, by the way. Just a quick dump off, bring the pressure in. Boop.
Yeah. Exactly. So I think Brock Purdy, who quietly, he was on his way to a massive passing day against the Steelers in week 1, and then he just didn't have to throw in the last quarter. But he could have had 300 passing yards and 3 touchdowns in that game. We're going to see Brock Purdy throw, I think, more than we did last year.
Yeah, and that's the only concern is if the Giants aren't competitive and do they need to do this. But, he's played 3 home games in his career, and he's averaging over 19 fantasy points per game. He had multiple passing touchdowns in all 3 games. Since the start of last year, the Giants bottom 10 in the NFL in terms of most yards after the catch allowed per reception. So, again, think about Deebo, Ayuk, Kittle, CMC, also good after the catch. Make no mistake, Kyle Shanahan will take advantage of that. I'm at QB 11.
How about some others receiving votes? Russell Wilson, Kenny Pickett, not the 2 you'd expect, and then Matthew Stafford, who's been absolutely great this season.
In the 4 games since Nathaniel Hackett was fired, Russell Wilson is averaging 22 fantasy points per game. Now, obviously, his stats so far this year inflated by the Hail Mary last week, which is fluky, but the two things that are positive, again, high over-under at Miami. We expect them to be trailing. He's going to have to be throwing. And he had 56 rushing yards last week, which is all of a sudden, if Russ is going to start running, like, that's actually interesting as well. I'm at QB 13. I do think Kenny Pickett gets up to Schneid at Las Vegas. Through 2 weeks, Vegas allowing passing touchdowns at the second highest rate. So, and the Steelers' defense has been brutal. And then Matthew Stafford. Again, we've talked about him. Like, that's who Puka Nacua is getting balls from here. 93 pass attempts through 2 games, over 300 passing yards in both. Like, he's played unbelievable. Through 2 weeks, the Bengals have the 4th lowest pressure rate. We've always talked about that. When Matthew Stafford has time, he's deadly. And right now he's getting time. I expect him to have time on Monday night against Cincy.
Yep, he's a very viable starting quarterback option until further notice, just because of the volume and also just his skill level at the moment. Looks like he was in 2021. I'm not with you on Kenny Pickett. I need to see something from Kenny Pickett. He's been terrible the first 2 weeks, but
I'm at QB 17.
Yeah, I mean, it can't get any worse.
Others are receiving votes. It's a matchup based, and I still believe in the talent. Again, like Cleveland and San Francisco are 2 really tough games to start the year off of. It'll be better on the road at Las Vegas.
Yep.
All right, starting the hate list off here, and listen, we know all the off-the-field stuff that Justin Fields has been in the news for this week because of the press conference regarding the coaches, but Justin Fields makes the hate list here, Barry, because quite frankly, he hasn't been good in fantasy this year, and now he goes up against the Chiefs defense where Chris Jones is back, and he wrecked the game last week.
He really did, and so one of 2 things happens here. Either I'm dead right, I put Justin Fields on the hate list, right? And I'm right about that. And he, once again, has another brutal game. He's had under 15 fantasy points in both games this season. Or he does what Kirk Cousins did last week, and he sees the column, and he gets all motivated. He's like, I'm going to shut Barry up because I'm sure they all read the column. And anyway, but whatever. But he's running for his life against Chris Jones, and then all of a sudden he starts running, and I have helped break the schneid. I have and so I look like a moron because he was on the hate list and he goes off, but there you go. We'd be back. We'd finally be back. As somebody who has a decent amount of Justin Fields, I'm willing to take that hit if it gets us the Justin Fields that we drafted. 3 rushing yards last week. He's only had 4 rushing attempts. That's the crazy part here. And so it's just, we don't know if all the drama spills out of the field or if it's one of those things that's like all the drama is, it's like, okay, now he goes off. Like, to me, there's no in between. He's either going to be a top 5 fantasy quarterback or once again, he's going to be brutal this week.
Yep.
And I put him on the hate list because I think he's going to be brutal against a Chiefs defense that allows passing touchdowns at the lowest rate through 2 weeks.
Good to see Barry playing 8-dimensional chess once again with
As always.
Justin Fields. Look, I don't know what's going to happen in this game. I don't know what the result will be, but I'm pretty confident that Justin Fields is going to run more than he has in the past after that press conference, which is a little bit overblown, but I'm pretty sure he's going to run more than he has.
Speaking of a man, Jay, that might be running for his life tonight, Daniel Jones against the 49ers. Listen, a brutal week 1 for Daniel Jones against the Cowboys, a brutal start to week 2, monster second half against Arizona. Now he gets the short week against San Francisco, at San Francisco.
Yeah, if only we had a previous example of Daniel Jones in primetime this season against an elite defense, and how did that go against the Cowboys in week 1? I think it's going to be a rough night for Daniel Jones.
Yeah, and no Saquon Barkley as well, so their offense becomes somewhat one-dimensional since the start of last year. Only 3 quarterbacks have scored 18 or more fantasy points against San Francisco. So, yeah, maybe he gets you 15 or 16 because of the rushing, but it's hard to see him having an elite game as well. 4th lowest implied team total this week for the Giants as well. So we're not expecting them to put up a bunch of points against the Niners, who are 4th in pressure rate through 2 weeks. They get after the quarterback. So maybe that leads to some rushing, but it also means probably Daniel Jones throwing a pick, outside my top 15. He's merely a desperation QB2 play this week. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotoWorld.com. And I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched. Or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest RotoWorld fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.